Okay, so listen, I got the manganese. I did. I got all the wolframite I needed, you know, all 50 some chunks of it. That spawns about roughly the same rate as diamonds do in a vanilla world. It was one of the most tedious things I've done in this mod pack, okay? I could have turned into some sort of time lapse or, you know, thing where I show you mining all these individual pieces, but let's just not do that. Instead, let's just open up the chest and show you that I've got 9 of them because I got lucky on the last chunk I got and got to an extra piece. But we only need 8 of these. Unfortunately, we don't need those today because I forgot a step. Hello everybody, I'm Arden. Welcome to another episode of Glacial Awakening. And today, well, we aren't going to go start into alchemistry because I forgot that the alchemistry machines required advanced control circuits from Mekanism, and there's no way to short circuit into that because we need to be able to make alloys and control circuits. So I guess we're going to go power through to Mekanism instead, which is pretty much right on our path anyways because we needed to make the enhanced machine chassis to do all of this. But to make the enhanced machine chassis, we need to make the DU plating finally from Nuclearcraft, which requires the uranium-233, which is the whole reason we made Mr. Fusion down here, who is slowly killing me still. And while I decided just to not move that and try to power through and finish this pack, we should talk about what I'm doing to try to mitigate that real fast. Because I realize one of the things that exists in here is radiation shielding that you can add to your armor, and I can easily make up to the medium radiation shielding right now. And you can see that without anything on right now, I'm doing 992 URADs a tick. If I put on the helmet and the chest plate that I have the plating on, it drops down to 4. So to go into this real fast, the medium plate takes just basic Nuclearcraft materials as well as some bioplastic, which is just sugarcane in the manufactory, and then light radiation shielding, which is just iron, lead, and coal. So yeah, that's all pretty cheap. The one caveat, however, is that the armor has to be full durability to be able to apply it. So the way that I'm actually handling this is using repair paste from Hearthwell, which it's kind of clunky to make because it requires making fertilizer blocks and some other stuff that is just kind of tedious. I made all of this a while back, so I've got this lying around. I could just use experience and an anvil to fix this stuff, but to use this, you just put it in your offhand and hold the item you want to repair, and every so often it will tick up and heal it up some. And then you just wait for it to finish. Once it's fixed, you can then just craft this and the radiation shielding together to add it to your armor. And there, now it's even lower. So instead of having to fix my layout here, move the reactor out, and do the right thing and not irradiate everything on the surface, I think we're just going to power through at this point and deal with the fact that I'm at least shielded from the radiation. I might end up with some two-headed cows, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Now, however, what we need to do is make a fuel reprocessor from Nuclearcraft so that we can turn depleted TBU fuel into the tiny clumps of uranium-233 that we need to make the DU plating. And this is not even a complicated machine. The hardest part is it just requires another industrial machine chassis, but thankfully I have most of the materials for this under control nowadays. I just don't have it automated. Because I've gotten lazy about this and I've realized that there's not a whole lot of point to automating most of the stuff in this pack. This is not Enigmatica, and we're getting close to the end, actually. Closer than I had originally thought. So let's just get this done, huh? Alright, so I keep swearing I'm going to clean up this area, and I'm starting to suspect that may never actually happen at this point, but we'll see. But I just tossed the fuel reprocessor here on top of my monitor because it just gives me easy access to this ME interface anyways and kind of hides stuff behind it. But it's just pulling the depleted fuel from that drawer. If we turn it on, you can see that it pulled all the fuel in, and it is slowly processing this. We don't need to process it quickly because it doesn't actually chew up fuel that quickly right now. We probably need to fix that, but it will eventually chew this all up into tiny little radioactive bits. And there we go. And if I take off all my armor, it doesn't actually appear to be doing anything worse than it was before, so it doesn't seem to be that hideously out of bounds like I had thought people had been saying that it was, where this smoothly just generates tons of radiation. I don't know where that came from. But this now means that we can make the DU plating that we need to continue. And I have just enough for one plate, which is not enough, is it? But there, after I waited for all the rest of my uranium to process, I now have all 4. Which means we can not check this off? That's... what? There we go, I apparently didn't ever pick it up in my inventory. We move on to the advanced machine chassis, which, shock on my shocks, requires 2 of these DU platings, but we'll almost certainly need more. But thankfully we have most of the rest of this handled because we just need some dark iron bars, which we've had dark iron for a while. We just made the resonating gems. We just need to put together another end steel chassis. which thankfully is not all that complicated. It's just more end steel ingots, which as a reminder is just end stone, dark steel, and obsidian. That part's at least easy. I'm not looking forward to needing more DU plating though. But I also apparently already had the end steel chassis made, so we just had to make some dark iron bars real fast. But there we go. But that brings us to the dilemma of not quite getting us to Mekanism, because we've got one more stop along the way that is going to eat up this chassis. Because if you're looking ahead, we also need the Empowerer. There's also the Decay Hastener right here, by the way, which does require one of these chassis, but I can't tell what they want us to do with this, because while this does let you turn one isotope into another, I couldn't find an easy way to get to the uranium for the DU plating. Maybe I should go look into that a little bit more. It feels like that's what they're trying to get you to do, is speed through fuels to get to that. Okay, so I might be missing the obvious, because we can turn depleted TBU fuel into the Neptunium right here. And Neptunium-237 can be decay hastened into uranium-233. So I guess maybe we should take a step back and go do that one real fast and use up another enhanced machine chassis, because that should make the plating a little bit easier to make. Okay, so in creating the Decay Hastener, which I've got right here with an exporter pointing into it, and creating an even bigger mess of cables here that I seriously have to go clean this up. This is getting pretty bad. I probably actually need to go do this in between episodes, because this is just getting unmaintainable. But this is now plugged in. But in doing so, I went and automated making the advanced plating, because that was becoming a pain. So to do that, I put an ME interface over the alloy furnace to make the two ingots. And then I added another ME interface in front of my molecular assembler with the plating here and in the top one up here. So all of the steps for that are now at least done. I still have to make the chassis myself, but that's at least an annoying step finished. If we plug in the Decay Hastener, you can see that it is now creating uranium-233. Now we just need to actually dump it all out. That at least means the DU plating will now be less horrifying. Now let's move on to the Empowerer though, because that's the actual step we need to finish up today so that we can get to the Metallurgic Infuser, which is our current blocker to go make the chemical dissolver and chemical combiner. And the big thing with the Empowerer is that while it required an enhanced machine chassis, and mostly other parts from actually additions, a whole bunch of atomic reconstructor bits and bobs, and then a bunch of these display stands. We need 2 to make the Empowerer itself, and then we need another 4 to be able to use with it. And these need the aesthetic green blocks in the quartz, which is just more atomic reconstructor shenanigans. So I guess let me go get all that put together. It should all be pretty easy at this point. All right, I've got the Empowerer set up down here now. It's made this room an even bigger dumpster fire of a mess than before, because you need power running into the display pedestals. They have to be 2 away from the Empowerer itself, and you do need all 4 of them. This can be automated. I could put conduits down to feed the items into it and put a chest to dump it all in with a bunch of filters, or I could connect it to an ME interface and do the same, but I don't actually know how much I'm going to be using this pack. I'm hoping honestly not that much. But the next thing we want to make, and which will let us move forward from here, is the Metallurgic Infuser. And the big trick here is this requires the empowered Restonia crystal, which thankfully, unlike everything in Enigmatica 2 Expert, is really easy. It's just a pair of bricks, some redstone, and some red dye, as well as a Restonia crystal. Now, to be clear, making the full block as opposed to just the single crystal costs the exact same number of components. So you're better off doing full blocks instead of just singular items. But to make it do its thing, you just load everything up on the side pedestals, and then put the main block in the center, and it just starts pew-pewing lasers everywhere. And unfortunately, without automating it, at least at a basic level and putting a bunch of filters in, I have to do every single one of these steps manually, because it can't hold more than one of the items each. So that's unfortunate, but again, I'm not going to bother until I know if I need to do this more and if I need to lay out this whole room better as a whole, because this is just ugly, folks. Why did you let me do this? Why am I allowed to do this? All right, and now we have a Metallurgic Infuser made. I'm just running out of places to put stuff. I really need to clean up. I keep saying that, and yet I haven't done it. I just keep making bigger messes. And the way the Metallurgic Infuser works is it takes a fuel of some sort, in this case diamonds or obsidian or biomass, but usually redstone's our main one here, and then usually an ingot or some other material to make its end product. So the bulk of what we're going to be using this for are the basic control circuits and the enriched alloy right now. But the sun is getting real low, and I think it's time to call it a night. If you found this episode interesting and entertaining, please consider to like or subscribe if you're new. As always, I'm Ard. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.